Watching my favorite wrestler in WWE. He's been my favorite wrestler for like the past 10 years. I know I haven't watched it actively past few years like I did back 10 years ago, but I still keep up with it here and there, and he still is my favorite. So I don't want you guys saying nothing about, oh, I don't know who this guy is. This guy's name is Seth Rollins.
He's in the story with Ryback, I believe, at the time. And the idea was, obviously Punk liked myself and Moxley. And I think Chris Hero actually was his pick at the time to be the third guy because he and Chris had a long history. But they really liked Roman, they being the Office in WWE. And so they weren't sold on Chris yet. Chris hadn't been in developmental as long, I don't think, as Moxley and myself. He had kind of just gotten there a little bit. He's a little bit older, but I think they wanted to kind of test him out a little bit. And Roman had gotten there right before I did. So it just made sense, kind of a compromise. Okay, we'll give you these two, but we're going to take Roman, put him in a group. They'll be, CM Punk's bodyguards, essentially. Bump guys for Ryback is what I think it was supposed to be at first. But after the debut and the first week, I think they realized, oh, wow, these guys actually have traction. Like, coming from developmental.
Yeah, Shield is my favorite group in WWE. Favorite trio.
Dream.
The Shield are my favorite wrestling group. Trio. They're my favorite.
Coming from the independent scene, there's traction there. Like, we can use this, Like WWE was starting to dip heavy into Twitter and social media and that kind of feedback, and that's where, we were kind of, I don't know what to call it. We had some semi fame there, myself and Mox, and so you got the feedback immediately. Like, it wasn't just you're bringing up guys from developmental nobody knew. I think the Office got the feedback. Oh, people know who these guys are. They at least know their histories because they can just get online and find it. So once we kind of people realized, oh, there's something here, then it became like, you're like a mercenary group kind of on your own who maybe, CM Punk might have just used for one night. And now, there was a concerted effort to separate us from Punk so we could be a standalone act and not just kind of lackeys to him. And then that was it. Then we were just left to our own devices to like figure it out from there.
Is there part of you though that's like, I want to be a singles guy. I want to be a singles competitor. Now you're putting me in a trio and we're wrestling tag team matches.
Yes. I'd been in a tag team with Jimmy Jacobs in Ring of Honor. But that was a little different because Jimmy was the captain of the ship. And so I was just kind of along for the ride. Here in the Shield, I myself and Mox had sort of built up a lot of experience at this point relative compared to everybody else. And we were very confident in our ability. So we were kind of the leaders of the group in the sense that Roman didn't have the experience yet. So we were kind of tasked behind the scenes with figuring out the machinations of how matches would work, promos would work, stories would work and stuff like that. So we were both singles guys. Like, I don't think Mox, he did a little bit with Sami Callihan as a tag team, but like certainly our wheelhouse is being singles dude. So we weren't expecting, and the group thing was thrust upon us when we had very little lead time to like figure out what we were doing, which is why we showed up in turtlenecks the first night, because that's just what they gave us. Then you fast forward 1 week, we look infinitely cooler when we've been given the opportunity to go to a thrift store and figure something out. So
it's from a thrift store,
Army surplus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we were like, okay, we're in tactical gear. We're not wearing turtlenecks. Well, who wrestles in turtlenecks? It's going to be uncomfortable, hot, and stupid looking. The trifecta of doom. So like,
W for figuring that out. The Shield, man, just makes sense. The outfit made the group, made them just 10 times better.
Like, let's get rid of that. And then it was just like, all right, we all lived in different places. Everybody's just going to go to these stores and find whatever fits. And shockingly, we all came back with like 3 different looks. Just 3 different whatever fit our personality looks, and then we just kind of continued on and tried to figure it out. But really, the one thing that that sort of solidified us was the mindset of like, we're just gonna run through every wall. We were never gonna take no for an answer. We were never going to like be meek. We were gonna push everybody out of the way. We were gonna we in our minds and our level of confidence thought we were so much better than everybody else. We were gonna have to raise people up. That's how we looked at the locker room at the time. And that was probably insulting to a lot of veterans, but like we just didn't care. But we also had some strength in numbers, the three of us, to kind of, you know, stick together. And, you know, the rest is history, as they say.
And there's no weak link there. Like there's three guys who all are champions. And that's the amazing thing about that faction.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, you could have picked Roman as a weak link just based on his experience, but he's an extremely quick learner, extremely quick. Obviously, you know, the business is in his blood. His family's been in it for generations, but like he's super observant and like understands everything immediately. So he picked up stuff like a sponge and understood what his role was within the group and like took it to the next level. And you kind of watch that throughout his career as he developed. You see the people he works with, he learns from them. He watches them in the ring, you know, outside the ring. How do I model myself after that? If that's a success that I want, what can I take from that? He does that very, very well. And so once we got cooking, there was no weak links. And then as you look at, you know, where we're all at now, no weak links.
They say that first impressions are important, but what about connections for out
You get the old much in your personal space.
I think
Blue?
Maybe getting a little is entering.
Shout out to Blue Chew for all
Or get fans
supporting the
that are when the Shield is entering through the crowd. Do you ever get fans that are maybe getting a little too handsy or maybe getting a little too much in your personal space?
I think we had some grabbers. But everybody was pretty cool, you know. I think most people just kind of want to get a hand on you, you know, like just touch you
The
a
old,
little bit.
very hard pat on the back.
A lot
right?
of pat on the back.
Yeah.
A lot of strong pats on the back. You know, like an occasional like grab of an arm or like a, you know, hair, not like a grab of the hair, but like a, let me touch the hair. You know, everybody liked the wet hair for a while. We had a series of jumpers, and that was always scary, but shockingly through the crowd, no, I mean, we'd have like weirdos who'd like jump out in front of us just for a minute to get like themselves on camera because they knew the camera shot. But like we always had security with us. Like WWE security would always be John Marks or Scotty Aycock. Shout out to those guys. Jimmy Kelly. They were always with us, like just making sure like bodies were not in the way, you know, they were clearing a path. So we were pretty fortunate, you know, all the entrances we did, we never really had like any huge hiccups.
Take me backstage 10 years ago, WrestleMania 31, your music's about to hit.
Yeah.
And you're about to cash in. What's going through your mind?
Oh my God. Wait, what's going on? Why is it laggy? Yo, everything good? Everything good? We are about to hear the story of one of literally my favorite moments I witnessed as a wrestling fan of, oh my God, like I'm such a big wrestling fan, and this was up there as literally my favorite moment, man. This was insane because it was never ever done before. Why did it stop recording?
Gosh, there might be like a camera footage of this somewhere, but I'm just sitting in this chair right outside of the curtain in Gorilla. It was a smaller Gorilla at the time. We hadn't expanded it to this big one yet. And I remember Michael Hayes is in the producer's seat, and Hunter and Vince are like on the far side, and I want to say there was panic about the time because we were still like on pay-per-view, and so there was like, we have to be off. We have to be off at this time, you know? And so it wasn't like an option to overrun. Like on Peacock, you know, it's streaming. There's kind of, they want a certain time period.
Yeah,
but it's
same
just,
with Netflix.
Yeah. It's these streaming. They're awesome because of that. You can just, you know, you get a little window and you're not strict. The advertising model's a little different. So it's like, but at the time we had to be off, done. And so I remember sitting there and like thinking, oh shoot, they're not going to make it. Like, we're going to have to do this tomorrow. Like, that's what I was thinking. If it doesn't work, we'll just do it tomorrow. just hoping that my idea doesn't go up in smoke. And so, fortunately, they are professionals and they hit their cue when they needed to. And again, the rest is history.
So this was your idea?
The idea to cash in the contract at WrestleMania was my idea, yes.
Really?
I had I don't know. I had put it into the ether probably 2 months prior or so. Because you remember, I win this thing in like July or June. And immediately when you win it, you look at the landscape and you go, okay, when can I cash this in? At the time, if I'm not mistaken, there was only one world championship, right? And the champion was Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked at, okay, Brock wrestles like twice a year. When are you going to cash this thing in on Brock Lesnar? Is Brock Lesnar going to allow you to cash it in on him? What circumstances would be the best for this? And then you start to go down the months, okay? And then, again, you take off all the shows that Brock's not going to be on. So you look at SummerSlam, probably not going to happen. You look at Survivor Series, if he's there. And then it's like maybe Rumble, Mania, and then you've got like that little window after Mania where maybe, so you start to like plot it out in your head. And the major point for me as I was kind of going along with that was the Royal Rumble earlier that year. I did a triple threat match with Brock Lesnar and John Cena. And I kind of had to I don't want to say weasel my way into that, but that was initially meant to be John, Brock 3 or 4, maybe. Like they were in a series of matches.
Yeah.
And the audience was kind of getting a little tired of it. Not to say that those guys aren't incredible. They are, but you do the same thing. And Brock wasn't around to sell the story that much. He would just kind of show up. And, when he did, he was a huge attraction, especially at that time. But I think the audience was getting a little bit bored of it. And I was like, well, what does it hurt? I don't need to be in the Rumble because I've got this briefcase. So, why would I win 2 title matches? That doesn't make any sense. I don't want to be off the show. I'm like, just throw me into that triple threat, Yeah,
that's one of my favorite matches too. The Royal Rumble triple threat match between Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. That was an insane match too.
I can mix in there good. It'll change the whole dynamic of the thing up, and let's just see what happens. We ended up having a really great triple threat and
I told you.
Really good dynamic. That was the first time I think I worked with Brock really. So he got to see how my mind works a little bit. So got to kind of create some, little touches of respect there. And then later that night, Roman wins the Royal Rumble to a chorus of boos. Even The Rock comes out afterwards or during to try to endorse him, and it just did not matter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this isn't good. I was like, this isn't good. You don't want to give him this title at WrestleMania. Like, if he gets booed out of the building there when he wins the title the first time, then, you know what I mean? Like, that's not good. So,
I mean, what's wrong with a champion that gets booed? I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe you're making fans not support, but...
I'm like, I'm a hated villain at this time.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Like, if I win the title...
I remember everybody hated him, except me.
Then we can give the audience time to understand the story, who the good guy's supposed to be against me. I'm not cool at all at this point. I'm like, let me be the guy. Let me be the heel that can get what we want out of this change. And so I pitched the idea. I let it sit in the ether for a while, and then still, even the day of, obviously I was doing the story with Randy Orton leading up to WrestleMania. Even still till the
he did wrestle Randy Orton that Mania 2 prior to the main event matches before, and that was during the daytime, and that was one of the greatest RKOs of all time. One of my favorites too. Crazy RKOs Randy Orton gave him.
After my match with Randy was the first confirmation I had gotten
Wow.
that we were going to go in that direction. I don't know whose idea the triple threat part of it was. I think my idea was just like a cash in after the match. But somebody came up with the triple threat idea in the interim once it was floating in the ether there. And it was a brilliant kind of way to do it that I'd never even considered.
And you get 2 WrestleMania moments that night.
Did, yeah.
Crazy.
Yup, he did.
I'm sure people still ask you all the time about that RKO.
I mean, here you are asking me about it right now.
Here we are. How did you guys, because I've heard the story of like in practice, you couldn't nail it.
Couldn't do it.
What made you think you could do it live in front of all those people?
Well, Randy's not a practice guy. Randy's not a guy that wants to fall down when he's not getting paid in front of, people. So the reason Joey Mercury is the reason that I felt like we could do it. Joey was like, obviously part of J&J Security with me. Joey was a mentor to me for a long time in Florida Championship Wrestling. And when he was on the main roster, having Joey by my side was really nice. But he was also like a perfect little mechanic. Like he could figure out how to make anything work. And Joey's much smaller than Randy. Randy could eat a snack the size of Joey, for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But that made it easier for me to step on Joey's head when we were practicing it. And so I could do it with Joey. And, Randy's much stronger. But he didn't want to fall down and do the RKO. Like even if you slid a crash mat under, like it wasn't working. And we had a backup plan in case it didn't work. But like Randy was like, screw it, man. I always take the easy way just so I can bat 1,000. But let's just do it, man. Let's just give it a shot. If it screws up, whatever. I've had plenty of mania moments. I don't care. But I was like, at that time I was 10 years ago. So I was like 28 or 27 or something. There's nothing I couldn't do physically at that point. Like if I had my mindset on it, we'd figure it out. And so I was like, the adrenaline will carry through. I will say I did have some reservations about it in the match because when we got out there and it was very hot in the middle of the day, very hot and dry in NorCal. And so I was like I was more winded than I expected to be. When we got to it, my legs were a little bit heavier. You know what I mean? Like all the ways you don't want to feel when you're about to do the grand finale.
Yeah.
So when I started running towards him, I was like, oh, here we go. Let's hope for the best.
When Randy hit it, he looked pumped.
He did. He forgot to cover me. Yeah, he forgot to cover.
What's he yelling at you in that moment?
Probably a lot of curse words, He's just firing up. I don't even remember, I remember most of these things in third person. Like I can't have I don't have these like first person visuals of all these moments. Most of my memories of these moments are like video replays that like I have substituted for memories. Like I know I lived it because that's me, but I don't remember I don't remember many of the moments through my own eyes.
Do you watch a lot of stuff back?
No, not really. Not anymore when I was used to. But those moments I've seen a million times on replays. Just
hard to miss them.
Yeah. You don't, you're not trying to watch them back. You just see them. And how many times have I been asked about it and talked about it? And there it is. And so I kind of have a photographic memory of that. But yeah, man, he was just hyped. Our referee, Spider Rod Zapata, I think it was like, cover him. Oh yeah. Then it was done and over. On to the next one.
What's this version of Seth Rollins now? Who's the visionary?
The visionary is interesting. He's like a hybrid, kind of a little bit of everything, right? I'm like the nice thing about Triple H's WWE is like you're allowed to be all the things at once. You don't have to be a specific